When did you start thinking like something's wrong? Because you were like in it. You know, you were so good at it as well. Like the videos, the like you were one of the leading upcoming stars, you know, like the face online as well for a while. So like what was the
I don't know where to when that now point is, because now that I look back, I think that seeing the wrong was in 2022 at the trainers training. Now I call it Hannah's trainers training because Hannah was the most harmed person at the training. And I just like, I remember myself looking at trainers abusing trainees. And I remember seeing them and thinking, you guys, the senior trainers, you guys are, this is fucked up and this is your responsibility. And I'm not gonna clean it up for you anymore. And I would just walk away. Yeah, just feel uncomfortable because I was the witness and I could intervene. But at the same time, I knew that there's nothing that I could say that would be like, oh yeah, Yura, you're right. Just like, you're not, they just invited me to be off support or whatever. Like I had no role. Like they were the senior trainers that invited the some trainers who wanted to come. We paid for coming there as if in the support, but they did not inform us what kind of support, what they need from us. I was mostly in the kitchen helping the senior trainer Maggie with the food. Um, yeah, so I was like, there was no place for me to speak up. And yeah, so that was when I saw the wrongness.
I just had the thought, and you can tell me if this is true or not. Um, do you think also because there was a culture of like people pleasing is bad, saving, like being the savior is bad, but what is acceptable is taking responsibility for yourself and like leaving. So, like, the only thing that you could possibly do um, in those moments was really to like leave because it is so or to be a witness because it was so like shameful, unacceptable to actually be the one that's trying to do something, right? Because that
Mhm.
would turn into a process.
Yeah, it's like if I'm having a problem, then it's my problem to handle. Then the only thing that I can do is to approach the senior trainer and resent them for how they're behaving, in order to get over my resentment.
Yeah.
There
So
was
the
no
only
power of
op-
impact.
yeah.
You were saying something.
The only yeah, to me, I feel like the only option you really had then um was to withhold, was to sit back. Yeah.
Exactly. Was to withhold. And this is one thing, it's like, I agree not to withhold, right? Withholding is lying, is a form of lying, but that's the only option that you're left with. Because that's also you taking responsibility, owning your own shit.
Mhm.
Uh, so that was the first, that was like also the moment where I felt the most approved and validated and uplifted, because the situation became so escalated and so harmful for everybody at the trainers training that I volunteered myself to close the trainers training because I had the trauma training and others didn't.
Mhm.
And so I just felt like I gained some status.
Yeah.
Put on my jacket and I sat there and like I wasn't charged. I was in charge, and I knew that all the senior trainers are overwhelmed and they just like want to be done with all of it. It's like I knew that I'm under control of the senior trainers, but I also have some of my own power there, which was for the first time, because before all my own autonomy and my own power didn't really mean anything, because I all I had to do is what the senior trainers would tell. They would be the the hand that had the voting. And that was the first time when I was like, I have some power here now, like very limited power, right? I'm still very responsible towards the senior trainers, but I had some power. And I sat there. It was horrible because I was so conflicted because I wanted to protect Hannah, and I was choosing. There was like the radical honesty spin-off in my mind, And I chose the Radical Honesty Institute over Hannah's health, because if it was in a different context, I'd be like, you're obviously really, really harmed and disturbed, and you shouldn't be here. You need to go home. Let's all of us just go home to regulate and take care of ourselves. But because I chose the Radical Honesty part, that ended up, yeah, in the way it ended up. Like, we closed the trainers training, and it was really harmful to some people, to many people actually involved. Yeah, and then up until December, so that was in like May or April, May in that year. And it took me December, up until December, I was still choosing Radical Honesty until I got betrayed and trapped by the guy that I dated within the institute. And when that happened, I received a lot of support and compassion until like 2 weeks later, everyone is like, oh my God, Yura is still mad. It's like, why can't she get over herself? Right. So from very like friendly, supportive people, like, yeah, we'll help you complete, and we'll help you this, and we'll help you that, to like, hey guys, so now I would like some help, and be like, oh my God, I'm so like tired of you, like blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'm done with your drama, that kind of stuff. That, and these are the people that I call my friends, people who call me their friends, the owners and the senior trainers, right? So these are the people that are responsible. I'm applying through the legal, through their own set way of getting help, through the, what is it called? I don't remember anymore. What facilitated conversations? The support.
Oh, the support circle?
Yeah, through the support circle. I asked for help, nobody responded. 2 weeks later, I asked for help again, nobody responded. Yeah, and then I heard complaints by the senior trainers that they're like done with me, blah, blah, blah. And that's when I started to like, I kept choosing Radical Honesty Institute and these people. But they were not choosing me back. Like, they were not really supportive. They were saying that they're supporting, but their actions were not supportive. And that's when I started to choose, like, get curious what's really going on. And I think that like January, already at the end of January, I was like, wait a minute. Everybody that I'm asking help, that I'm trying to get help to get this and the other predatory guys to be held accountable, they're all financially invested in this institute. So it's a conflict of interest for them. They can't be public and tell the truth and do all those things that I'm doing because they're financially invested. That's when I started to like feel something is off. That's when they started to like psychologically split off from the Radical Honesty Institute and those people that I was friendly towards. And that was end of January. So, and I kept being with other people friendly, but then I would make decisions, and then they were more aggressive towards me, did not practice Radical Honesty, did not try to complete with me, were psychologically and emotionally violent and abusive towards me. And that's when I started to get curious about what happened to Hannah, because I realized that I never asked Hannah what really happened there. And that's when I asked Hannah to send her report about the trainers training. And that's when I contacted Etain and asked what happened there, because I also realized that I never asked what happened with Etain. And then I reached out to other former people that left to ask what happened, why did they leave? And that's when the information started to pour in. I was like, okay, this is a cult. And if it's not like the typical cult, it is to the minimum culty. And ironically, but only like in May last year. So it's like May 2022, December is the crack, January is the crack. And only in May, while leading a retreat, no, actually 2 weeks after leading my last retreat, or one of my last retreats in Radical Honesty, it dawned on me how the mind control works. So for all this time, I was like, okay, so this is really a cult, like it's bad, right? But I don't really know what it is. I was like, this is just bad. And I'm keep asking and reading and researching, but only, yeah, at that time it dawned on me that it's the agreements, how we get people locked in, how we create trauma bond, and where the abuse begins. So it was a very slow process and was also really horrible. And I'm shaking as I'm talking, but I'm like sweating, and this is very unpleasant.
Yeah. And it's May, it's June now, so it's 2 years. Like that was over 2 years ago. How fucked up is that?
Yeah.
And yeah, it resonates, still very difficult to like soberly address as well.
Mm-hmm. So this is what I've learned that. So I've started to learn how abusers function, right? Because abusers don't think that they're abusive. Abusers don't think that they're bad people. Abusers are people that feel entitled, and they're provided opportunity to use, opportunity to take advantage and control and abuse and blah blah blah. Right. So it's like I started to think about that. And if if you're the abuser and you want to get away with what you do, you have to inflict harm to the point of traumatizing someone, because someone who gets traumatized, they cannot, like the psychology gets fragmented, they get dysregulated, they cannot be consistent and speak about what happened to them. They're emotional, so nobody will believe them. So Brad's choice of radical honesty being a retraumatization thing is, I think, is that's why it was so successful, like it's such a good business model, because when you traumatize people, they either walk away or they trauma bond with you.
Mm.
And those who walk away who are traumatized, then don't want to have anything to do with it. It's like, fuck this shit, I want to move on, right? It's like, that was horrible. I just survived a car crash that was inflicted by someone who was my therapist, for example. And there's shame, and it's like it's really difficult psychologically, because trauma changes brain, changes personality, like it's a big impact. And those who stay, they're like, oh my god, I want more of this is amazing, I'm so fucked up and you're the only person who can help me, please save me. And for Brad, it's like, of course, it's like, I got you. It's like, you're just stuck in your mind, and if you're gonna say I resent you, appreciate you for, and you do what I tell you, you'll be fine. So good business model. Good business model.
Yeah, good business model that like exists in so many other very similar organizations, right? Like they're really, for me, there was all the clicking when we read about the history of the human potential movement and all the people at the top that kind of congregated to create it. Like, and then you can see the strands of like Esalen Institute, Rob Huberman, Scientology guy,
Uh,
um,
um, Hubbard.
Hubbard, Ron Hubbard, and like Fritz Pearls, and that Brad was directly trained by Fritz Pearls and loved Est and the Insulin Institute. Like it, yeah, it's kind of the same thing what you said, that the same thing happened to him with the very similar trainings. And then
Yeah.
you just go and teach other people how to do the same sort of traumatization to others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on the note of Brad, whenever in workshops, my colleagues and co-trainers, we would say that Brad was trained by Fritz Pearls and Erickson and somebody else, someone famous, as if like they were his teachers.
Yeah.
But in like what happened, like Brad told me that he went to 2 Fritz Pearls weekend workshops, and then he got back to Washington DC and decided to call himself a Gestalt therapist. That's how he became a Gestalt therapist, right?
Mhm.
So probably he just jumped to workshops, whatever was available, just like we go to authentic relating nowadays. We go to Wheel of Consent and we go home and start to teach it, and it becomes a thing. So I wonder whether it's like, I still see that Brad is named as a psychotherapist by all the trainers. There's like, Brad is a psychotherapist, blah blah blah, but he doesn't have a license. I don't know whether he ever had a license. As far as I know, his LinkedIn says he has a PhD in education, psychology and philosophy in Texas
Mm.
University. I don't know whether he actually had his own private clinic. I don't know whether he ever has been licensed or he had any psychotherapy training. That's what
Mm.
he told us. And at this point, I doubt that anything that he told us had any truth.
It's true. He never actually spoke about his personal trainings when he was doing psychotherapy and passing on that information. Because I always say this, that essentially radical honesty is like a unregulated, bastardized form of Gestalt therapy, which makes sense from somebody who wasn't actually trained with the Gestalt Institute, because the Gestalt Institute does exist, and I actually don't know much about how they regulate and how they train, but is very different from someone who just say they've read the book or yeah, like trained by Fritz Pearls, loves Fritz Pearls ideology, and then has gone and like created something completely different from it. And then I always find it so ironic as well with radical honesty when people say, you know, it's not therapy, but it is like super dangerous therapy that is happening, and they're just sugarcoating it in it not being therapeutic.
Yeah,
I
it's I
Sorry.
don't think you can. It's like if you use therapeutic methodology, if you copy paste, if you take something from psychotherapy and use the same tools in a different context, does that make it not therapy anymore?
Mhm.
Like I don't know. It's like you do therapy, but you call it coaching. Does that make it not therapy because you call it
Right.
coaching?
Yeah, I think that's a cop out. Like it is still therapy, but it's bad therapy that's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's re-traumatization according to Brad Blanton.
Actually, yeah, that's so true. It's re-traumatization sessions that like feed in that are a really great money making tool because it just perpetuates regressive attitudes and behaviors which wouldn't be acceptable in the outside world. So you're just creating more insular communities. It's a fantastic business model. It works very well. It's just really dangerous and harmful for people involved. The other thing, sorry.
I just want to comment that despite it being a really good business model, Brad could not pull it up. Like he could not make it
No.
a proper, like a proper business like Landmark, for example. He did not have the skill or the willingness or whatever to deal with it. He sold a really bad business to a bunch of untrained passerbys, let's call it.
They weren't intellectual enough to run a business. Like you need to be intellectual to run a business. And if you're trained to say duh all the time and be into your body, it's going to be a shit business. And the ones that the landmarks of the world, like it's their pyramid schemes, like they're multi-level marketing companies, because you can see that yeah, it's a bad business model in the people that actually run it don't have any money. Like it's not a sustainable career. I remember like typing into the training, or maybe it was a Facebook group, I kind of asked like how much do trainers make, how much do each of you make, and like nobody made a sustainable income apart from like Tulia and Pete, and Tulia is business minded, she's had that education, but yeah, they don't teach any of that to any of the trainees that are joining.
Yeah. I mean, Pete and Tulia are really focused on not making more competition for themselves. Their business model is monopoly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, about the whole idea that the radical honesty business is set to fail because you can't be smart, you can't be like you cannot be responsible for other people that depend on you. I just remember Selena in when the petition came out, and Selena's asking Brad, it's like, do we really have a moral obligation as a business to provide our people that, you know, our clients, what they're asking for?
Oh my god. Yeah, I changed my stance. It's not a good business model. Change it. It's it's just a sneaky way to create customers.
Yeah,
A sneaky way to make customers come back. Sorry, because not even finding the stray new people, they're not so good at that. It's just like a how do you make people keep coming back? You re-traumatize them.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not also very efficient at bringing people back. Most of my workshop participants were new people. So
Oh,
I
interesting.
did not manage to traumatize people in the way that they would keep coming back.
Ah, so you actually managed to let people go with taking stuff. or being able to leave, essentially. They didn't feel like they got the enough of the, what's it called, like the dopamine and oxytocin high from all the drama in the group, and wanted to come back for more.
Yeah. Probably because I was trauma trained. I was like, it's a choice. And people did nap in my workshops, right? It's like I did have people leave whenever they wanted to, and they don't have that in with other trainers. So probably I was just too soft. I mean, that was the whole thing, that the complaints from my co-trainers was that I was too soft. I was too helpful to my clients. I wanted to help everybody. That I was too all everything is about trauma for me. I'm not doing radical honesty. I'm doing something else.
So ironic. It's just that everything is about trauma for you, and yeah, it took us so long to put the dots together that the whole thing is
Yeah.
traumatizing.
We
Yeah.
get a bunch of people that we traumatize, like, yeah, of course we're gonna do trauma work. I'm gonna put the thing down a little bit more.
The one thing that Brad did learn from Fritz Pearls, I got a line in that human potential document that I really love, when Fritz Pearl they were talking about Fritz Pearls and Essalon, and it's really creepy. But they were saying that like he lived an aggressively sexual predatory lifestyle in the Esalen grounds, um, seemingly having an obsessional need to proposition young women and to touch their genitals. And what remains is the ghost of Fritz Pearls lingering naked around the grounds of Esalen, haunting the atmosphere with perpetual 60s style reminder that experience is the key to nirvana. Brad definitely got those lessons from him as well.
Yeah.
I just noticed that you did turn off the light. Or you put the blinds down?
Yeah. The sun is gonna move towards me a little bit more.
Need to space out a little bit there.
I think I need some time to regulate. It's already intense.
Because we know all these talking points as well. It's just going over same stuff, um, which is useful in the recording that we're trying to do. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm just feeling nauseated and sickened about everything. Just like thinking about that Brad has secured his retirement basically by using me and others who he sold his business to. And then he mocked the people that he certified. And it's like, well, now in 2017, when I was at the trainers training, where he certified a bunch of people that are now the teaching trainers, the senior trainers.
mm,
It's like, well, it's like the standard is so low that if you get certified now, it's like you have to be such a bad trainer to get certified because the bar is so low now. It's like, so he jokingly humiliates people, and to make the certification, it makes the certification such an unattainable thing that when you get it, it comes with like, it's like, it's not a big deal. It's like, I'm a dummy, but look at me. I worked so hard to get this thing. But the thing is just to help Brad to make money before he dies.
and that totally got perpetuated with like my TC cohort as well. It, at the because I remember at Hannah's training, there was this like confusion from the senior trainers with like, why are people taking this so seriously? Like, we're only going to pass, like it puts us off wanting to pass you because you want it so much. Like, we're only actually going to vote for you if you act like you don't want it so much, which is kind of encouraging lying. Like, the whole thing is so fucking hypocritical. Of course, like if you dangle something with a carrot and put all these fucking hoops to get there, and you've jumped all the hoops and you're so close to the carrot, and then being like, oh, you want it too much, I don't think you've embodied the ideology enough, because you have to not care about it to really show that you're a radical honesty trainer. Like, you have to become the ultimate narcissist for us to think that you are ready to be a trainer.
Exactly. And you have to be sociopathic or psychopathic, meaning that you have to numb yourself not to feel empathy for other people, because then you might get too involved and then you're just like having a savior complex or whatever that becomes your shtick.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard for me to talk about it. Mm.
Yeah. I mean, that's what ultimately woke me up. And it was, I guess it was similar to you, like there were like little things kind of along the way, which I was the one being victim of those situations. But I would, I'd take all the coaching and thought reform to be like, oh, this is just my fucking hero's journey to get over. But it was really reading the Case Against the Sexual Revolution book with Louise Perry, or it is, I have it up here with my pile of cult books. There we go. The box of fucking tissues that I needed through that book. I read it 3 times, cover to cover, because I was just like, oh my fucking god, and my whole brain just went like, um, and yeah, the first line of the book was for the woman who learnt it the hard way, and I just remember like sobbing through the whole thing. But yeah, it was through the hard way, um, learning about there are people that are vulnerable, and in places that are super super liberal and aren't protecting those vulnerable people, harm will happen. And the harm happened to me because I was that person, and the harm has continuously happened to others, and I was actively part of and championing this like super liberal ideology, and have since become backtracked a bit and gone like, like being super super liberal is a lovely ideology, it would just be so wonderful, but there is human nature to consider. And
Mhm.
when you bring human nature into an ideology, like when the rubber actually meets the road and it comes into reality, there's like so many more safeguarding steps that need to come into play. And that's when I woke up and was like, oh my god, there's no safeguarding. Like this is a recipe for harm. There's just no safeguarding at all in these spaces.
Wow. I would love to hear more about your story, but I don't know how much you want to talk about it. Um, yeah, there hasn't been any safeguarding because the survival of the harsh environment would deemed you fit or radically honest in that environment.
Yeah, you had to be the narcissist, of course. You would not pass as a trainer as if you were implementing safeguarding, because essentially safeguarding is um, repressing. Like it's kind of inflicting withholding. That you have to behave in a certain way to protect other people. It completely clashes with the radical honesty ideology.
I want to, there's something that I want to share that it's a new realization. It's a forming idea that I want to share, is that I met last year um, a, a practitioner from Amsterdam came to Berlin and visited my friend, and I was there. And it was so interesting for me to notice, to see how differently I relate to her, this person now, who is very connected to radical honesty, but she never was really in it, right? So she was the bystander, she was critical this whole time. I perceived her as, she's like, why is she constantly angry at us? Why can't she just get over herself? Right? Why can't she just do more radical honesty and get over her anger towards us? I perceived her as angry,
Right.
whereas she was just upholding boundaries. She was being critical. She was not buying in, and she was not having an open, whatever, no bound, like this boundaryless, noticing being that reports whatever she notices. She was being herself. She was being actually autonomous and authentic, meaning upholding boundaries. And I think that I perceive people who hold boundaries and they're a little bit careful as angry.
Yeah, and they need to resent to drop their boundary.
Exactly, which is what happens with people when you resent, you get loud. What happens that you blur whatever the psychological integrity that you have. It
Impose on someone else. Yeah, you've just automatically broken the boundary. Yeah.
So that was very interesting for me to see, and also on the point that you said, it's like that something about withholding. I already forgot what you said, but it's like that then the people in the outside world, if they're actually autonomous and critical and behaving with safeguards, for example, because holding boundaries is safeguarding, that those people are deemed to be angry and
Yeah.
stuck in their heads or stuck in their minds
Need to loosen up a bit. Yeah, need to not totally.
and can't differentiate between noticing and thinking. She cannot notice that she's actually secretly angry,
Mm-hmm.
right? That kind of stuff.
Well, it just reminds me of that, like, where did he write about this? Maybe it was Rick Allen Ross wrote about how there's a person like it's not necessarily that like one type of person is attracted to cults, but when people go into these cults, there's one type of personality that comes out. Do you recognize this from anywhere? I'm trying to remember what book it was, but it was essentially saying that these like which makes sense, like these mind reform communities
Mm-hmm.
changes someone's personality so that the output is that they all become the same no matter what diversity came in.
Yeah, they become the version of the leader. Like the leader creates mini version of themselves. That's why we have a bunch of hippies now in radical honesty dropping out of their schools or jobs and their monogamous relationship, becoming hippies who live in yurts and tents and nomadic and traveling around the world, applying to Gestalt therapy because they want to experience the same highs and lows as they experience in radical honesty workshop. Then they get bored and disappointed. They get into affairs, they ruin their relationships, they start new relationships that are open and undefined. They're basically becoming brads.
Yes, and that was exactly it. And that point of being I don't know, responsible, mature, honorable looks like somebody's not doing it right. So the output is that anyone that comes in with those values will come out, yeah, boundaryless, not being able to think critically. So God, good on your friend to like be able to maintain her sense of her sense of self.
Yeah.
And that's happened a lot as well with the pretty like when you skirt around the outside, you can get a lot of value from this work in like potential parts because it's just I was listening to Anne Peterson kind of talk about Landmark in the way that she doesn't completely throw out all the stuff in Landmark. She's like, there are points that are helpful and that it starts people on a growth path, it gives them information about themselves. But definitely when you get sucked into this, definitely the training path is the part that perpetuates the dogma because you're no longer just coming and taking the tools that you like and leaving. You have to be it to be able to. You have to take on all the ideologies, and it has to be your entire. It's your new religion. It becomes your belief system to then move up the ladder.
Yeah. You have to adopt the character that you have to become a little bit like the leader
Yeah.
to, yeah, get noticed or get just like I'm also thinking about the fact that the radical honesty senior trainers are the people that kissed Brad's ass the most. That's why they're senior trainers. They don't have the skill. They're not trained with working with people. They have at the time when they were certified, nobody had the experience working with people. They have no business knowledge. Like, hmm?
And the ones that did have left, like the
Yeah.
ones that have actually experienced working with people, have done licensed psychotherapy courses. They don't want to be around the organization anymore.
Yeah. And also people who received more training, they distance themselves from radical honesty before enterprises and now institute.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about also a few therapists that left, but also they left because they don't want to harm their image.
Mm.
They don't want to get consequences for being associated therapists, licensed therapists also associated with such behaviors. That's why they left. They didn't leave because they actually care about the people or they criticize the misconduct or that they want to change something about the organization that is unethical and harmful. They left because of the narcissistic injury, basically. It's like, I don't want to be perceived as the person who does something bad, and I don't want to be unlicensed and judged by my therapist community.
Cut off a little bit there, but I'm back again.
You seem to be present the whole time.
Oh, it did that thing where you froze, and then I
Uh-huh.
was like, oh, Gone, and then when you came back on, everything you said came back really, really fast. So I didn't actually miss anything. Blah, 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 blah.
Was the important bit. It was two times the speed.
Yeah.
At the trainers training, I also wanted to share, because I'm just like, I'm back and forth all over the place here, but it took me days, like I think on the third day or so, I realized why the trainees are so angry also at me and also at all the senior trainers. Like they have like their favorite senior trainers and their like not so favorite senior trainers. And then they had their trainers that they liked and trainers that they didn't like. And the critical trainers were the trainers that they didn't like, and the trainers that were support, they were favorite trainers. But I was so shocked and surprised to see that what I've learned as the radical honesty method, I thought that everybody's receiving the same methodology. I thought that we're all on the same page. To my surprise, to learn that everybody got something else. And now they're coming to compare notes and they're like, notes don't match. And I was not aware of it because that was not of my own, like I just didn't know, right? I thought that we're all learned because under Brad,
The one, yeah.
we learned under Brad and Tabor, and I thought that we're on the same page, when in fact the whole thing just everybody did whatever they
Everyone
wanted as they were encouraged, and now you have a bunch of people who are learning radical honesty, which is nothing, and whatever the trainer decides it to be.
yeah, yeah. How can you keep, yeah, how can you have a agreed on curriculum when the curriculum itself has so many holes in it and the holes aren't addressed? So people just fill it with whatever shite and experience that they've got in their life. Yeah.
So another thing about people filling in the gaps, I have filled many gaps because I've been very long. I've been doing and radical honesty for a whole fucking 9 years. So I had to invent shit on the spot for like many times. And other trainers picked up of the shit that I invented because it sounded nice and it made sense at the time. And now that I left, I hear the trainers and the trainees repeating what I have pulled out of my ass a few years ago.
Yeah.
And they think this is it. And they think this is radical honesty. And like, no, babes, I just invented it on the spot based on the circumstances I was put in. It made sense at the time. It doesn't anymore. Who's gonna tell them? Who's gonna tell them? Because nobody's listening to me. Nobody's asking. Nobody's calling me like, Yuda, hey, what's your opinion about radical honesty? Like nobody. I was shunned. Nobody wants to talk to me about it because I was so like traumatized and emotional and whatever. It's like, who's gonna tell them that half of the shit that they're saying, I told them that, and it does not make sense because I
Yeah.
just pulled it out.
But I
So
also think some of them don't even know. You know what I mean? Like it's exactly that John or whoever doesn't know what other TCs are spewing or where it came from, even if it did come from you, because they don't train each other. They're not in workshops together. So
nobody gives credit to anything that they take from anywhere else. Everything is radical honesty.
and I remember like I genuinely thought that. I remember using stuff that you posted, being like, well, this is all like we're all the same family. Is that not how it works? Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I blocked everyone who's still in radical honesty in the trainee capacity, because I don't want them to copy the
Yeah.
stuff that I take time to read and analyze and then say, well, this is radical honesty because the former radical honesty trainer said it so on her social media post. It must be true, because why not?
And it is worth saying that the TCs, and it was the same for you when you were going through the training, that nobody has templates or like there's absolutely zero guidance when it comes to marketing and putting stuff online. There is just a kind of sense of unregulated, write it yourself, take from others, and you do see the same one copy and pasted loads, and it's like, who originally wrote that? It's such rubbish. It's a terrible what's the word, description of a workshop. Like it's actually really bad marketing. Too lengthy. Wait, it's too many words that don't make sense. Like really, who's fucking reading that?
Yeah, I know who wrote it and I know who copied it and how, and people who added it each bit. The person who wrote it that a bunch of us copied from, is not part of the institute because of his sexual misconduct and sexually predatory behavior. So a predator wrote the fucking bad marketing description. A fucking hippie who doesn't, he can't even take care of his laundry. That kind of a guy wrote a fucking text, and we ate it up.
Yeah.
And we reused it and copy pasted and we wrote our own stuff. And I think now that everybody will not, well, people are waking up, they're not using those bits, but it's pretty fucked up.
Yeah. I was kicked out all the calls. I think someone cottoned on. I was getting all the recordings. Damn it.
No more jokes. So it's sad. It's so sad. There's nothing else I could do but laugh anymore. It's so sad to see them trying to make sense out of the things that really don't make sense.
Well, that was it. Like, I found myself watching them because I was like, I wonder if this will change. I wonder if anyone will pick up on like any of the things that I'm thinking when I'm watching this, or if anyone will vocalize, or, and yeah, it's just the same shit. It's reinventing the same wheel over and over again because it's rotten to the core.
And they get so excited whenever they get this new idea that they or themselves or nobody else has thought about before, like that the feedback is a gift. They're right, they're on their high horse now. The feedback is a gift. And it's gonna use it. It's like, oh my God, the feedback must be a gift because it is a gift. And this is how a gift looks like. And this is how a gift feels like. And when it feels off, then it's not feedback. It must be criticism because they're isolated in their own thinking. Whenever something new comes that they like, they go like, oh, this is the greatest thing in the world. That is sad.
And any like serious organization that takes them on can see through it so quickly.
Yeah. Which is great. I mean, I was thinking they're starting to clean up the website because I look at it from time to time. I noticed that they took off the creative mind, the reactive mind, the Scientology term. They took it off. And I look at other trainers and it's like, oh, I'm like, my teachers are psychotherapist Dr. Brad Blanton and Tabor Shadburn, MA. It's like, okay, two sexual predators are your teachers. Like, good, keep it there. Just have it on your website so that the people who know, they know not to go to you. Unfortunately, in Europe, nobody knows those two schmucks. In the US, they at least can Google them and read a little bit. So I don't know, maybe they should keep all the toxic stuff on their website because that's what saves people, those who are critical and want to know what they're getting themselves into.
Like it for me, it just feels like such a yeah. I always draw back to feeling helpless because I feel like such a massive battle to overtake in that like there is a reason that this industry has become so lucrative, that people are seeking these experiences like in a who was I talking to about this, but like because community has broken down so much, the person, now you can tell me what you think about this theory. This is one that Calm and I are kind of like playing with, and we talk out our thoughts to form them. So when I have formed it, it's not that like I think this is the truth, I just need to like blab a bit for it to make sense. But that because community has broken down so much over like decades and decades and decades, that people that usually you would have looked up to in a community, in a family setting, would have been like your auntie or your uncle. Like it would have been the like elders of the family, of the town. Whereas now those kind of elders have turned into paid services. So whether it like it is therapy or coaches or like, because those relationships don't exist anymore, that there is a real need to seek this sense of advice. So when I like do my keyboard bashing about radical honesty or the human potential movement or like coaching in general, I sometimes feel like I'm just like, what does Callum say, farting against thunder, because like people will seek this anyway. Like it's like really wanting to outsource that like troubled youth, whatever, troubled life, because life is so unnatural and going against our instincts anyway, and generally traumatizing, that they will seek this. And me having, and you as well, having like the things of like, don't go to radical honesty because it's so toxic, will just go to the other one. So I always find myself like, and it's not a reason not to try, but I always find myself being like, you could scream to the blue in the face about how dangerous and upsetting this is, but it seems to just keep happening. Sorry, my rant over.
Yeah, you do you. I agree with your theory. To me, it also looks like it. And also when I look on social media or the people that follow me, and I need to be careful here not to offend anyone. I keep finding myself, for example, liked by people that are in some sort of cultiverse. So these are my followers. And I was like, what am I doing to keep attract the people that use magical thinking or wishful thinking that are seeking, like, that believe in things that cannot be measured. I don't know. I also look at other people who post on social media it's like clickbait marketing stuff, right? It's like 10 steps to your better life quality, blah, blah, blah. And they have hundreds of thousands of likes and shares, and like people just eat it. Yeah. And the content that is science-based, that peer-reviewed, that took hours, days, months, sometimes years to write, like John Hunter's PhD work, it's a fabulous piece of work that took it's like 2, 3, probably 4 years to write. That it's also like an opinion. It's not, you cannot like you cannot study it, right? You cannot study people in cults, so you cannot measure it, right? It's like, it's also a speculation, but it's a very well crafted, right? And nobody bothers to read it. Like, when I post the content from like the critical minds, nobody really likes it because it's like negative, and it's like, take out the hope from people. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I think people deserve to be, then, it's like, this is what happens when you get to choose an easier option. You of course are going to take the easier option, even if it's a rotten apple that there's no nutrition, right? And there's a rotten shit in the middle. You're still going to take it because it's easy, it's gratifying, it makes sense. So
Don't spoil the fun. We're all having so much fun here. Don't
yeah.
ruin the transformation that we think we're going through.
But it's also with a friend of ours that we both know. It's like when she got into another cult, and her reaction was like, yeah, it's like, there are things that I don't like about this organization that I have joined, but please don't tell me anything. Like, I want to find it out myself. Right. So this is what we're facing. It's like, well, it didn't harm me, so I'm just going to continue and getting my dopamine hits because I love it. It's great. It changed my life.
And the harm isn't obvious, like it's very subtle, right? Like you're not going in and coming out with a broken leg. You can't see it. It's if anything, it's the opposite. It feels amazing after like 9 to 10 days, and that's when the crash can come for people. But yeah, it's like
You walk out with a broken psychology. The only problem here is that it's invisible. So you have been harmed psychologically. You will see the actual symptoms and results in months or years from now, depending on your sensitivity, the environmental factors, like where you're at in your life currently, whether you're more sensitive or more numb. It's like, it depends. But the broken psychology, broken leg will start to limp at some point. And at that point, you're going to be wondering, what's wrong with me? I need to go back to that cult to get another dopamine hit so I can forget whatever the wrong happened here and get it fixed for 9 days or 10 days.
I just had this image of like, I wonder how it would make a difference, or would it make a difference if these workshops, like not even just radical honesty, but like all the others that are the same, because it's not fucking special. That was such a mind blow moment for me, that there's nothing unique about this organization. It has been copy and pasted in so many others. Like it just, there's hundreds of them. The technology exists everywhere. Like it's just fucking yeah. Bleh.
Yeah.
Um, and if they had warning labels like may fuck up your mind, um, yeah, or like psychological abusive stuff happening here, um, or even gone through the screening of like who is really vulnerable to not come here. I don't think it would make a difference. I think people would still go.
I think so too. Wait, I had this thing. I asked it on my Facebook post, like if you knew this, what I
Yeah.
know, if you knew that the percentage is this, that you know, it's like that around if it's a 16-person workshop that 4 people walks out damaged, would you walk out?
Because that is the data on encounter groups. Like that is a real thing that does exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, would you go? And people responded. So when I asked myself that question, surprisingly, I would go.
Mm-hmm. It's not enough of a risk, right? Like
Exactly, because I'm overestimating my capacity to deal with stress and harm. I am overconfident.
it's the
And
sorry. Yeah.
so, and the other people also respond is like, I probably am also overconfident and I would go because I know how to blah, blah, blah handle. And there are some people like, oh, but this is where the most growing happens, when you get to survive these very traumatic experiences that are held in a safe environment, right? And there are people who say, oh, no, I don't have time for this shit.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
People who have life, they don't have time for this shit.
Yeah, or just like actual relationships to lose. Like I feel like the people that, I mean, I don't know, maybe that's a sweeping generalization, but I think it's safe as in these aren't actually people in your life that you rely on and depend on, and that you like, and the risk is that what you do there can bleed into those relationships that you could have with other people, and that is the risk, going to these things, that you play with it, experiment it here, and then suddenly start to collude and take all these other people and suck them in as well. Maybe that would be the better question. Like, would you do this if there was a risk that you could be harming the people back in your life again afterwards? And I think maybe that would change people's minds, when the risk's not about you anymore.
That's a perfect way to screen narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths.
Yes. And if they say no, you're like, come on in. Like, I'm just joking.
Oh,
Should have
you
done.
have no empathy? Come, we're gonna love you to
We will
death.
put you on steroids.
We need more people like you.
Oh, I had another thought there and it's gone.
It's okay. It's gonna go back. It's gonna go back. It's gonna come back. Go back.
Yeah. One day I'll come back.
So, speaking about the damages that cults, I am the living sample of what it's like to live with, like, I am very much symptomatic. All the symptoms that I have are in relation to narcissistic abuse, prolonged stress, and betrayal of relationships, right? And so it's been 2 years already, like a year and a half, since the shelf broke, and I am not myself. Like, I don't know who I am. It's really difficult for me to trust myself. I definitely do not trust people. So it's impossible for me to, for example, make friends. I realized that every single person on my in my immediate environment that I call friends are in some kind of cult or cults, several. Everybody is in the cultiverse. So when I woke up and became critical, there has been distance between me and my closest people, besides my family. My family, they go like, oh, this is amazing. It's like, welcome back, right? But it's like all the people that I met in the cultiverse, they're still in the cultiverse. So I feel completely alone, like I don't have friends or close friends or people who could relate and understand my experience. There's no chance I'm dating anytime soon because I don't have hobbies, because my hobby was leading workshops, or traveling to lead workshops. I I haven't
What
yeah,
was your hobby?
I don't have a career. I bumped 10 years basically doing this random shit that I don't have any proof or certification or nothing. Basically, I have a bunch of experience, but nothing to prove it, and nothing, and like I don't know what's really useful in the actual world that gets shit done, works with real people and real world problems. So, and like a year and a half after, I'm still not sleeping well. My eating is irregular. I'm unstable emotionally. I don't have my short-term memory is very compromised. I cannot concentrate. I can't read. Um, I can't write, and like I cannot make, like there I have memory losses. Um, yeah, just like really, like if this was be an equivalent of physical injury, I would say I broke my spine.
You'd be disabled. Yeah.
And so like psychologically I feel disabled. People don't see it. It doesn't, and I'm high functioning, so I can pull up the functioning well, and they pass as normal. But psychologically, the way I relate to myself and the world, there's nothing normal around for me. And apparently it takes around 5 years to actually leave a cult, or to have cult leave your psychology.
Yeah.
And also others are saying that the best time to write a book about it is 10 years after, 10 years after you've left. So, and they also say that the cult survivors are the most amazing people. They're the most hardworking, the most lovely, the most empathic, they have seen the good and bad, and they have woken up, and they're really connected to reality, and they're very vulnerable, extremely vulnerable, so that it's very important to deconstruct so that you don't hump to another cult, or also people very susceptible to narcissistic relationship, toxic marriages and all that stuff. Like I got into another coaching training that is probably stemming from another one-man show who did whatever he wanted, and yeah, the program is still, it's not culty, but there's not much substance in it.
No. I was just thinking when you were saying all that. Oh, fuck. Yeah, I was. Yeah, it's so fucking shit. Lots of emotions, anger, sad. And also, I was kind of thinking there, like, I wonder why I seem to have, um, like, been relatively okay, and no, okay, yeah, relatively okay, like relative to you. Um,
Mhm.
and my theory is that it's not quite the same, um, but like being a mum of a small kid, I think has saved me in
Mhm.
that, like, like you, it sounds a lot like you've lost your identity with radical honesty, and I already lost my identity when I became a mom. Like everything changes, all the values, especially if it's something as individualistic as radical honesty, because like with all the human, I mean that's why this book was such a mind shatter. It was actually more after this book that I felt ill than leaving. Like radical honesty was almost the after of that, because it was like, this realization that, um, I'm not an individual anymore. Like a mother and a child is a dyad. They are a partnership, and they will be for a long time, like many years. And then even after that, when you're a parent, you are dependent, but also like in responsible for, and responsibility and maturity and like honor, like all these values that just don't exist in radical honesty. I had to go and like revalue them again. Like I did know them at some point, and then I like put them down the priority list. when I was training to be a trainer, because it was like, well, to embody all this shit, I've got to be a narcissistic arsehole. And then it was like, but that's not the kind of mum that I want to be. So it was all changing anyway. And I think um yeah, so there was a shattering, but I think, yeah, motherhood kind of saved me in that I also lost my career because you can't fucking work and be a mom, or it's not easy. It's not very easy to do that. Um, yeah, sense of how I relate to the world, the vulnerability, the reliant on someone else to support me because you're like physically so fucking vulnerable. So yeah, actually now I speak out loud. There was also a change, um, but I really feel for you with like I think like I had to step up to be a mom. Like there also wasn't a choice there for me.
Yeah. I felt really moved when you shared that. That you need people when you're a mom. You need support, so you cannot be an asshole to other people. It's not about just, well, just ask for what you want. It's like you can't just yell at people and to resent them so that you feel better about how you feel about the person. You actually become vulnerable, and if you're vulnerable with radical honesty, then you're fucked because nobody gives a shit. You become one. That's why there's so many radical honesty trainers that are feel really lonely. They're alone,
Yeah,
even in
they
their
don't
own
have
intimate relationships.
families.
Yeah.
They're like I was thinking about that too. It's like oh God, this is gonna sound like super harsh and judgy, and I already shame myself for fucking judging because that's how fucking indoctrinated I was. But
Judge away.
there's no like there's no one that I want to be in the trainers. Like there's no one I'm looking up to going, you look like you've done a really good job at creating a family for yourself and a business and a home. Like none of them. I don't want to be like any of them at all. There's like other, yeah, I've created other idols and other cults, but I'm disassociated from that one for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like Brad had 5 marriages that failed. And just because you said, well, those are successful marriages because I said so, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's like, ha ha ha. He's also the way he manipulates, it's like it's so obvious for me now that I did not realize before. Ask a serious question, he will laugh it off, and everyone will be giggling. It's creepy to watch.
Yeah.
And it's still happening. It's still happening. Just a few months ago, I watched people fawn to him, and nobody like he lied on the call. Nobody challenged him. On the other side, he had 5 marriages. He lives alone. He's a functional alcoholic. He doesn't really have friends. All his friends are younger people that work for him, or his similar age people that he has this like jokey, pokey, rough friendship, Allah. So yeah, and I think there was few years ago when I started to feel very lonely, and I was thinking it's my problem, or when I got depressed in 2019 and I was thinking it's my problem. I think it wasn't my problem. I think it was the indoctrination, trying to like the thought stopping about any kind of alternative, trying to be dummy because smartasses are whatever shunned, trying to like live with that thought of like just not like if I just notice my body, the depression will go away because I will unstress myself if I yell at people and blah blah blah. It's not none of that true. It's like I just became more isolated and alone and
Yeah.
surrounded by predators because I also was so boundaryless and open for everyone. And I had a bunch of predatory people taking advantage of me and my goodness. And I had no idea how to set boundaries besides saying, I resent you for saying that. And then, you know, again, then being engaged with them because I had to be open to everyone. It's such a prostitution in a way. Ugh.
Yes, yes, yeah. Oh, I don't know if you saw, but I was just like, ah! Why you
I
look
it's so interesting because I could not read. I think I'm on the page 10. I was like, I cannot do this. I cannot read. The book is just too much in my face. So I could not read it. I didn't finish it.
it is brutal, but
But I listened to several of her interviews and I like what she was saying. Maybe it's the reading, maybe because I don't have the concentration and I'm just so emotionally like so dysregulated that it's hard for me to like focus and read something that's so terrible.
Have you heard? I mean, I listened to the audio before I read the book, and I think
Mhm.
what sold me, well, also she's a gorgeous voice. Like she reads very nice. So I was like, oh, and reading it was very hard because every sentence is very informative. Like it's really information rich, dense book. So it's kind of really hard to process bits of it. But the overall thing that I got from it, which was so shattering to my belief system at the time, was that like and it deflates me now to even think of it. It's like I cannot be an individual. I'm a mother and I'm also a woman. I carry all the reproductive burdens, which like puts me in so many vulnerable positions. And I've just continuously put myself in places where there are predators, thinking that like I am just as empowered as them, and I'm not. And that's a really like kind of like anti-feminist thing to say because I was really brought up with this thing of like I am just as strong as men. I am just as this as men. Like I really fucking believed that, and I am really big and strong. So I really did think that. There was no sense of like if I was in a room with a bunch of other strong men who were shouting at me that something bad might happen to me. I just
Yeah.
thought not at all. No way.
Yeah, same. I also grew up thinking that I am equal, that we're equal, men and women. And that I've learned the hard way. Yeah. And also the way one of the ways how my personality and my brain changed is how sensitive I am to the consideration of the vulnerable people. The very first thing that I look and see is vulnerabilities around me and people who obviously are not vulnerable and people who are obviously vulnerable in the situation and how the power imbalance is always there, no matter what you do or where you're at or what agreements you make with each other. Also, Anne Peterson, when she said, is it Peterson, the LGAT, the landmark woman, when she said that it took her years to realize in therapy that nobody can consent to be yelled at,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
like I agreed to support others in telling the truth means that I agreed to sit through people yelling at me and screaming at me for their own sake. And that's not the agreement. I mean, first of all, it's not an agreement, it's a
Rule.
bullshit.
Yeah.
But then why don't you just say that, like, if you're so honest, if radical honesty is about honesty, which it's not, then why don't you just reframe it and say, like, I agreed to sit around and listen when somebody's screaming at me, not to leave the room. Why do I have to support others in telling the truth? It's such a it's pretentious. Yeah, it's a lie. And nobody gets to consent to being abused. So it's also invalid.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about when in the TT, um, when I really like, I remember a moment where I was stuck in that bound, stuck in the, what's it called? What do we call
Found
it?
a choice.
Yeah. Well, more like the contradictory rules that, like, what's that? There's a word for that as well. It'll come to me. Where, like, someone shared something, they were shouting and screaming, and like the whole group had agreed to not to just sit and listen essentially. And then because you were kind of coaching to finish everything, and like,
Mm-hmm.
this is such a big learning for me at the time because I hadn't done NARM before, so I didn't recognize that that person was in like just just needed so much more support. And you said like no resenting, like let's don't resent this person. And it was one of those moments where it was like two contradictory agreements where it was like we've agreed not to withhold but now we've agreed not to resent. And it was like wow, like what do I do, like there's so much going on in my body because there's just been such an activating upsetting scene, sitting here in silence. Like I'm told that to what resists persists, so if I don't say something then I will be stuck in this feeling, and the only way, and then add on the extra layer of the status game that's going on between trainees that are trying to like virtue to the senior trainers, that you can show that you can speak up in difficult scenarios, or you can articulate yourself in the language that you're meant to be teaching. Like, it was just so much fucking going on. And then I remember eventually going like, I will say something and someone will correct me. Like, someone should coach me here. Someone should know. Like, it was a submission. It was a total submission to the authority of like, I cannot make a decision right now, but I know, like, sitting here in my bodily sensations, that apparently my bodily sensations are telling me to speak up, which is a whole other thing of like, of teaching me to be in touch with my body in a way that's actually not true. Like, that's not necessarily what my body was saying. It wasn't saying speak up. I just associated that something means I have to say something. And then I remember like I did resent the person, and I like that was one of the like things afterwards that was like a horrible guilt carrying like shit after learning about trauma, and what a fucking inappropriate moment that was for everybody involved. But like, yeah, submitting to the trainer, and then the trainer not clocking any of that, like just not clocking at all the kind of higher thing that's going on here, and just carried on with the dogma, just carried on with the same tool of like, look at the person, say it louder, da da da. Like, it was just that was a real also massive shift for me of like, these people don't fucking know what they're doing. Like, nobody knows what they're doing here.
Oh, I like that you just described it, because I think that everybody in the trainee position was thinking the same, was feeling the same, just layers of contradictions and not knowing what to do. And then the trainers also did not know what to do. Yeah, it was terrible. It was really like torture in many ways, witnessing as well, because there were other scenes that you were in part, you weren't there, I wasn't there, when the two individuals tried to resent each other to get over, when the senior trainer and the trainee tried to have a completion talk, and then everybody left pale, shocked. I wasn't there, right? So I when they walked in, I was like, everybody looked like they witnessed a ghost.
Oh god.
They were shaking. It was just like looking like so unhealthy and so bad. And I was like, and my first thought was like, phew, I'm glad I missed it. I don't want any of that. Whatever you got there, I don't want it.
But some people love it. Like, this is the crazy the social, what's it called, the psychopaths. Like, those people fucking love this shit. The like seeing people turn into like nasty, nasty versions of themselves, and like they just get such an entertainment from it, because people went back again after that, went back to a fucking TT again.
Yeah, some people do get off from seeing other people torturing themselves or being tortured psychologically, emotionally. It doesn't have to be physical torture. Like seeing them being like, I think I've experienced. I think I got that point. It took me like a while to realize that this is what was happening, but I think that my ex, because he knew my traumas, he knew my triggers and my traumas, and he knew exactly what not to do, and he did the one thing that he knew that will flip me off the most. I thought there was a moment when he really enjoyed me being completely clueless and trapped and not know what decision to make, and he just sat there and watched me being like, my flights and money and my stuff, and it's like because I had the expectation that's like, okay, so we make a decision, we talk about what to do, like how do we dissolve this whatever we created. But he was just like, he wouldn't talk. He was like, it's like, I don't want to make more trouble for you, but then he would not make options or decisions, or he would say, well, you could stay at, I could like, you could stay at my friend's place. And at some point, like, okay, I'm going to stay at your friend's place when I arrive. And then at some point, he's like, well, I don't want you to stay at my friend's place if you're not talking to me, which is control. Like, I have to then talk to you in order to be helped by you, right? It's like, that kind of stuff. And I think he got off watching me struggle.
And that's kind of like, that is what the workshop is, because it's like, um, you're teaching people to get out of their mind, but you need your mind to learn that. So the whole thing, you know what I mean? Like, it's fractured to the core of like a, um, like dismantling people's ability to critically think, but you have to think to take that on. So the whole thing is like, the whole thing is causing people to struggle, like not just going into all their traumas and things like that, but just the thing that they tell people to get. Like, I've heard this from TCs as well, that they're like, oh, they just don't get it yet, because the getting part only happens when you completely submit your
Yeah.
critical thinking capacity. You like, enemize, that's not a word, you make enemies with your brain, and you're like, well, I'm thinking again, oh, silly me, there goes my suffering again. Like, that's when people get it. And it takes so much thought to get to that point. So like, you can kind of see it in a workshop when you're implementing all the technology, and people start to change, and it hurts, like it fucking hurts your brain. And I remember that was the part that I really, like, I wanted to make it easier for participants, because I was like, this is so hard to teach, and people are confused, and I don't like people being confused, because they look like they're in pain. And it
Mhm.
and I remember the meetups that I was doing just wasn't radical honesty. I didn't teach that stuff. I just did like really basic stuff. It's kind of like that thing of people are so bored or out of touch or lonely or whatever, that like coming and sitting and doing like even surface level exercises can be so nice. And then they love the meetups and we're like, oh, I'll come to a workshop. And then they come to the workshop and be like, this is not what I thought it would be. Like, there was such a jump to make there. And I think yeah, you kind of do have to be a bit sadistic like that to enjoy watching people, yeah, just go through cognitive dissonance over and over again.
I think so. I think so too. And I think that I was sitting there and enjoying watching people struggle, because I thought that they're like losing their mind and coming back to their senses, right? I had such a distorted view of what's going on, that people's suffering was like the breakthrough.
Yeah, like, you, well, of course, that was how we measured that we'd done a good job. Like, it was,
Exactly.
we associated the like, oh, they get it, so that means I'm a good trainer because I've taught it well.
Exactly. It's like even remember at some point after retreat, Max said, "Well, like, everybody popped so far," meaning everybody had been overwhelmed, cried and shouted, and did like have been volatile, and that what makes it as if like we have provided the service.
We've
Well,
done what we said we would do,
yeah,
which we haven't said anywhere, actually.
yeah. No, it's all about connections. Like we sell the connection part, but you get it after you survive the trauma.
Yeah, or you think that's what you, yeah. It
Yeah,
just
and we
reframes.
call it connection. We just call it connection, but actually it's a completely random dysregulation of your whole
Yeah, it's just trauma responses over and over again. I was
oh,
speaking. Oh, hello. Oh, hello. Oh, you scared Yura. You've got the color of my wall.
happens. It's already hot here.
Oh,
It's hotter with the cat on the table.
oh man, my thought ran away again. Oh, that was it. So when I went away to a friend's birthday party recently, there was someone there who used to be a trainer who was not a trainer anymore. And I asked them, why did they leave? Because they left ages ago, like before I woke up. Um, what did they say? Something related to what we were just talking about there. They said that they felt like there wasn't actually any outcome of the workshop. All that happened was people came, and once they got it, they just did the same thing over and over and over again forever. And then they'd come back to the next workshop and do the same thing again forever, because they just, and we called it practicing the method. Like, we said, you need to go and practice the difference between noticing and imagining, and that's all the workshop is.
Because
And
you're never enough with your noticing and imagining, right?
you have to get better at it. It's like a muscle, and it will free you from your suffering, and that's how you will transform. Um, and I just I kind of liked what he meant by that. That it kind of summarized all the things of people getting their high, but yeah, he said it just regressed individuals into this game, this kind of, and I think that is another thing of what radical honesty is. It's a game, like it's another status game, and you arrive and you learn the rules and you get high status in that group by using the language, resenting, or especially resenting. You'll get high status from resenting,
Get extra
um,
status for resenting.
and then joining the groups and then going home and doing work with your family and then coming back again. So it's just another um, regressive, cyclical status game. And he just said he wasn't, there was nothing for him to teach anymore. Like there was just no outcome for it.
Fantastic. It's very similar what the friend told me when she arrived from Amsterdam. She also asked Pete and Twitter, like, so they're because they keep selling all their workshops, and especially the A-Day, right? The A-Day is what makes most of money for them. And she asked them, it's like, so what am I gonna get in from the A-Day? And they couldn't answer. They're like, well, just more of
For this.
action, more practice. It's like, but what is it? It's like, why is this not enough? And they're like, they couldn't answer the question. And because there is no substance in radical honesty, right? Because there's no radical honesty. And there was, and the new trainees that are now joining radical honesty, they're asking really valid questions that you would ask if you're part of a valid organization, right? And one of them asked us, like, so I'm doing these meetups, and I keep on doing the same thing, right? It's like people come, we do, I know, I sometimes I pretend, I notice, I imagine, we share, and people go home. It's like, and I'm getting bored. It's like, what do you do, guys? And nobody could really answer him the question. It turned into what it usually all supervisions turn into, his personal process. And eventually when he got a little bit flooded, overwhelmed, warm, sweaty and embarrassed, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I got my answer. But he did not get the answer. The answer was not, the question was not answered. None of the questions that trainees ask get to be answered. Like questions of like, what is your tax, what tax status should I take out as doing this thing in my country? And the trainer who's been doing this in her country for 10 years couldn't answer the question. She sent the trainee to an American assistant who doesn't know anything about the German legal system, right? And then when I spoke with her, the American woman, she's like, what? She sent him to me? It's like, I have no idea. I have no responsibilities besides managing social media site and the website. It's like, I have no information. And the trainee was like, okay, no worries. I'll take care of it. Right. I'm going to ask this another assistant. So they keep living in like maintaining the illusion that there is such a thing as this business, that there is such a thing as radical honesty, that there is such a thing as support, that people on top actually have some insights, but it's not spoken, it's not acted. It's all the emotional manipulation provides the substance that context wise, it's content wise and context wise, it's missing. It's
Yeah.
not there. But because people get flooded emotionally with each other, the trauma bonding fills them.
Yeah, they're just like essentially they're just selling opportunities for sensation, but they don't like that's not put anywhere. It's just like you will get sensation through life anyway, but what we'll do is like create specific trigger places for you to feel it. And for people that is the drugs they're seeking, right? Like that is what people go to so many, that's what people outsource for. It's for feeling and experience. But a lot of people don't know that. I don't know that half the time when I'm seeking it. I didn't know that when I was in radical honesty, but it was all these moments. Like I remember having a similar moment where I was really, really upset and really confused about all the agreements, and I was exhausted because every time I tried to talk to someone about the agreements, about like this was post having that conversation with the wheel of consent person and being like, oh, these agreements aren't agreements and they don't make any sense. And it was particularly about the one to have to stay because having been in the TT and being through that situation where I had to sit and then resent someone because stuff was going on for me. Like really, I wanted to go, but I agreed to stay as well. So I had all this irk with the agreement to stay. And I remember I'd asked about it, been shot down, asked about it, been shot down, and like finally I'd find, and as we all do, I found a sneaky way to ask about it that might make my point. So I was like, we were doing all this stuff. There was like a they're doing all this stuff for language changing to do invitational language for the grounding exercises as like a I invite you to sit down and feel your butthole, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, it's really important to use invitational language. And I remember like hearing that on a supervision. I was like, why? Why is it important to use invitational language? And they were like, oh, because we have to make people have choice. And I was like, yes, right. So why are we making people sit in the circle? Like, someone please answer this for me. And then they were just like, why is it personal to you? Like, you know, just totally like it was one of those moments and I didn't recognize it in the time, but I thought I'd finally got my point across of like, if we are trying to reduce trauma, we need choice. So why isn't there choice? And then they were like, what happened to you? I was like, oh my God, so many upsetting things. And then obviously you had like a huge emotional response and suddenly the supervision's over and I'm like, what happened?
That's such a good like it's such a good example because that's exactly how supervisions have been done. That every time you have a problem, they will make it your problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a problem could be like, a question could be like, hey, it's like, how do you declare your taxes? And you're like, how is that personal for you?
Yes.
And then it
Yeah.
become, you know, how your resistance to authority figures, something like that.
It's also how you perpetuate this anti-intellectualism stuff. Like it's another thing that feeds into disabling the mind. Because if you have like a cognitive thought or like a critical thought about the work in the workshop, like I remember having asking questions and it'd be ridiculed to trying to be smart, like own that you're trying to be smart, like turn it into a process that doesn't answer the actual question, but either humiliates the person for asking it or yeah puts them in some sort of emotional state so that they forget what they were talking about in the first place. Like it's such a dangerous tool. Yeah, I even remember like being ridiculed for maturity. Like I was told that, and again, maturity is a value that is not valued in radical honesty at all. Like that's not taught. No one wants mature adults. It needs like it rewards immaturity and perpetuates immaturity. And I remember, I think it was Tulia in an 8 day. In fact, you might have been on that one, but I remember her being like, "You just seem so mature," and I think it's about childhood trauma. Like she instantly put it about like you obviously had to be grown up when you weren't, or I
Age
want you
is
to be
the
a child. Yeah.
problem.
And I remember being like nobody had told that, like nobody had put that thought in my head before. It was always like a rewarded thing of you're acting much older than you are. Here's all the ways that that can benefit you. But this is the first time someone had like shamed me for it, and I was suddenly like, oh, maybe I should be more immature. And guess what happened? I did. I became a super immature asshole for years. And I've only recently come into contact with my mature self again. I'm going like, oh, shush, shush, it's okay. Like, maturity is good.
Yeah. Nobody even uses the word maturity in radical honesty. It was, and because I've been doing those extra courses for clinical therapists and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like I'm getting my education and somewhere else. And I knew what she was doing, what was the intervention was for. And I believed her because in that moment I was choosing her and whatever the radical honesty part. She's like, maybe she must have a point. She's like, I know what it means, why she's asking the thing, but it's like, nah, 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 nah. And I also like that you're saying that you did become less mature because that.
Yeah. Oh my God. There's an article that still exists on the Radical Honesty website, which I wrote, that said why radical honesty doesn't make you a better person. And I like wrote it as if it was like really cool. Like I wrote all the ways that I had become like a lesser, not a lesser person, but definitely like not all the good things that you'd associate with like a good citizen, a good family member, a good like because all things are they're like taboos, blasphemy to be those things. You have to be like for yourself always. It's yeah, it still exists on there. I actually want it to stay there because it's like evidence for me as like this really did happen to me and I was proud of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I deleted all my content that I created about radical honesty, because even when watching the videos that I made, I can see myself conflicting. So I make a statement and then I make the following statement is in direct contradiction to the first statement. I have so much content where I say this one thing, and because of the how the psychology works, the spin of like the group thing turns on at the end of a sentence. It's creepy, it's cringe. And but here's the thing, when I took down my content, people started to send me messages, be like, hey, I hope you're not going to delete everything because your content helped me so much, it's so amazing, thank you so much, please don't delete it all, it's amazing. And I'm like, you guys, I was full of shit. And it's cute that you did not notice, but there's also a problem that nobody knows. I mean, I never had like a massive following, right? It's like I never had more than 1,000 followers. So it's like up to 1,000 people, very vulnerable people, I might add, that really followed my content and believed me and that helped themselves with my content. But it's shit. The things that I've said, it's like half of it is not even like, it doesn't really mean it. Like, it's just
Yeah.
fucking loud.
Yeah, I relate. There's so much of this shite that I put on the internet that I'm so embarrassed by. I think I've deleted some of it. It all needs to go because I'll go through layers where I'm like, well, that's okay, and then I'll return back and I'm like, no, 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 that's not okay. But it's like
Same.
I'll think I'm been purged, and then I'll go back and go like, no, I disagree with that too now.
Yeah. So like just yesterday, I was reading my blog post from a year ago, last the June or July, and there's the spin-off, the radical honesty spin-off. It's like, oh, you're in an abusive environment or an abusive conversation, and then express your feelings. Fuck no, run, set boundaries, be firm. Like, yeah, just ugh, I'm scared what I'm gonna learn about myself from a year from now, about the ways that I'm thinking, what's important and what's normal.
Thing is, it's also not new. Like this is what I mean by it's like a new religion that like so how do I say this? I've also been very genuinely interested in the topic of honesty. That's not to do with radical honesty, like real honesty science.
Yeah.
What I like, I was. How do I put this into words? This will be a really hard thing to formulate. So what I've come to understand about humans and evolutionary psychology um, is that it is it is very efficient to have a high trust society. So societies that trust each other tend to be more on the higher end of the socioeconomic scale. It can create more technology. Like things work better. It is more affluent when there's a high trust society because it reduces cognitive load. Like you don't have to do all this thought stuff when you're an interacting person. You can just be quick, and then it's just efficient. It scales. It creates better communities. The problem and then therefore we have a truth default. We have a truth default as humans. We interact with like assuming other people are telling the truth unless we feel threatened, and that's when the other thing kicks in, because then all the cognitive load, the energy it takes for the mechanisms in our body to be like, is there a threat, do I fight or flight, like that takes energy. So it is by default we are mostly just trusting. Because we are mostly trusting, there will be people that take advantage of that. So that's when the sneaky sneaks come in, because you will get away to an extent. There will always be in high trust society people taking advantage of that trust. So therefore, people have also evolved to take advantage of people. So where am I going with this thought? What were you talking about before I started this? I might be able to tie it together.
I wish I could remember. It's also gonna come slow. Oh, that I was full of shit with my content and made sense. People trusted me. I trusted people. Now we're all fucked. My
Oh,
content is down.
What was my point? Anyway, that was the start of the point. But it's more that like I've been learning about actual honesty, and it is impossible for everybody to be on it. Like it's just impossible for a society to work like that. And even though in situations it's more effective when we are. I'm trying. And I was reading this other book called Born Liars by Ian Leslie, and it's so, so good. It talks about all the benefits of lying. It talks about how we lie to ourselves. It talks about, in fact, it does, I think, did I tell you about this already? Oh, it was amazing. There was like 2/3 of the book is about, it's called The Healing Power of Lying, and it's about placebo. It's about how we use placebo all the time to lie to ourselves for confirmation bias, because even something that is untrue will make it true for ourselves so that it will benefit us. Anyway, it's so much like honesty is so much more complicated than just demanding people to tell you the truth or demanding yourself to tell the truth. It's so expansive and nuanced than that.
Or the fact that telling the truth is actually a good thing, or that telling the truth is a health benefit, or that telling the truth reduces stress and suffering.
Or makes your relationships better. And there's so many times when oh my God, so this is the other thing. uh,
I
is
know.
that and I this came to me after the consent like a pro workshop, because the other thing that I wanted to try and figure out was consent with honesty, in that like someone could have a belief and I could have information that would change, like that could shatter their belief. And
Mhm.
like where is the consent there of like have, like I could say I have some information, and if I say it to you, once I have said it, I can't take it away, and it might change how you look at the world. Do you want to hear that? In a way that in radical honesty there's none of that. It's just blah, blah, blah. And you can change someone's entire life with something like that. So in my own life, um, I found out that my brother is not my dad's son. And I was full throttle in radical honesty that he has to know. He has to know that he is not like the biological son, even though the whole family kept it a secret for, for through their own experiences decided it would be better for him because his biological father actually doesn't want anything to do with him, and that can be hugely painful to learn that. Like, and you change someone's life with that, and I did that to my brother, like because I thought I had to be truthful. I fucking told him about that, and it changed his relationship with his dad. It made him go and seek his biological father, who doesn't want anything to do with him. So it put him through all this pain, and he could have just continued with the illusion, or like, or which was true for him, that his dad was his real dad. Like that was one of those moments that I was like, oh fuck, like that's a really dangerous way that telling people the truth is the most important thing is not
Yeah.
always true. Sorry,
I
Callum's calling me.
yeah. So I have go go.
I'm just gonna tell him.
Mm.
Sorry, I can't talk right now. Nice automated button. Yeah, you go.
I have witnessed multiple um just evidence how damaging it can be for people's lives and families to tell the truth, and it's only for the sake of being honest. Mm. Some of my clients have ruined their families and their relationships for the sake of being honest, because they thought, I don't want to be a liar. I don't want to feel all this discomfort about not telling the truth. And here they are fucking ruining their own and their families' lives, and being like, well, I couldn't live with that, so it's good that I dropped the bomb and now I can move on, and hope. And then just like, how the abuse survivors, they use the hope to like pull through the abuse. So then this wishful thinking hopeful scenario turns on. Is like trying to make positive out of these horrible things that happen, because you believe that being truthful or being honest is had the higher value for whatever you had in your life.
Exactly it. The confirmation bias. Like this is the example of how we lie to ourselves so we survive. Like we will look at the information and morph it to conform our viewpoints or to justify our actions, which is why it's so hard for people like to acknowledge that they've done something wrong. I don't like to. I'd switch between being really empathetic of like the senior trainers and being like how difficult it would be to do a 360, oh sorry, a 180, and be like, shit, we've done stuff wrong, because you have to go against this like very highly evolved brain evolution of not confirming your bias. Like it's a really, really hard thing to do, and you don't tend to do that unless you have to, like we had to.
Yeah. Did I tell you about one of the participants in Radical Honesty who was in therapy for addiction, stopped the therapy in addiction and decided that the problem was lying in the first place?
Oh my god.
Yeah, that was exactly my reaction when I knew.
That's like saying it's not an addiction, it's cocaine. Like, you know, it's like replacing the addiction with the thing you're addicted to.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Mhm. And I've learned it from his former partner, and their relationship is destroyed as well because, in dealing with an addict that finds a way how to justify and deny their addiction by using the cult ideology.
Which is so addictive. Yeah, it's super, super addictive.
Yeah, changing one
And
addiction to another.
and it's also weirdly like even though it's not very trauma informed, it's also very affirming. Like it affirms whatever everyone, even if it is abusive, it affirms your behavior, right? So like even if you are a drug addict, it's like, oh well, you're just being true to yourself. Like as long as you want to do it,
Yeah.
then you're allowed to do it.
Yeah, I think the whole system is designed to sympathize abused and abusers.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's like you have to be open to everybody because everybody on the same way can get over their shit and lose their mind and come back to their senses. It's like we're all equal here. There's no power imbalance.
I remember my point about why exactly you just saying that
Mm-hmm.
about why I started my vent about so we are generally quite trusting, but because we are trusting, people will take advantage. And I think like we're reinventing the wheel so much with this stuff, in that I think that's how like religions came about, and if that's how like moral values came to put onto groups of people, because it was like if we leave people, they do bad things. So like religions get brought up, and a higher sense gets brought up to be like at least we can like you not there's so many terrible examples of culty religions too, but in essence in secular society it's like but we need to impose values to make people behave better, because if we don't, people behave badly. Like if there's too much freedom, and that's essentially what Louise Perry's books is all about as well, that like too much freedom leads to what her phrase was, freedom for the pikes is death to the minnows. So if you free people with lots of power, it just means death to all the vulnerable people in the world. And then you get like this has probably been known for like generations. So like some sort of higher power has to come in to intervene with human nature and be like, no, social shaming, values,
Impulse control.
some sort of impulse control, repression, withholding, for the sake of the bigger social cohesion or whatever the value is of that religion. Um, because if you don't, like you just create hubs of abusive people.
Yeah. And it's ironically in Radical Honesty, it is taught the value is quite the opposite. It is taught that if you can't have it, you want it more. So if you have
Oh,
rules imposed from top down, people will want more and do the things that you don't want them to do. That's why in every supervision, there's no one who tells the trainees or the trainers what to do besides Brad. Brad tells to everybody what to do and what not to do. But all the trainers, it's like, well, this is how I do it. Well, this is how them do it.
yeah, yeah,
This is
yeah.
how it's done, blah blah blah. Nobody's telling what to do. That's why you have a bunch of people doing whatever the fuck they want. There is no such thing as radical honesty. Now they're acknowledging it's like, oh fuck, it's like we fucked up. So what are your radical honesties? I'm curious, what have you learned? Because we don't want to take accountability to the fact that we taught something underneath by pretending that we haven't taught you. Because if we were openly and like overtly told you what to do, then you wouldn't have done it, or you would have done it opposite or something like that. It's like it's a perverse rule.
Yeah.
And it's ironically in the background, there's lots of coercion. So a lot is being told through coercion by appearing as if you're not telling people what to do.
Yeah, I mean, even there's so many examples like that. Like that, I remember even being taught the they call it shit tests. If someone asks a question to test your authority, and you have to, and the way to shit test your participant back, I remember this from the TT, is to ask them is to turn it around and say like, how do you make it personal, or what would you do, right? So you don't actually take the authority of the person with the information that's being paid the service and answer the question respectfully. Instead, it's like twist it to shut them down so that they don't ask again.
Another point that I want to make. This remember how I perceived that the other person's, the outsiders, people from people who are not brainwashed by radical honesty, their boundaries, I perceived like I had sensitivity to their boundaries, and I perceived them as angry, stuck in their heads, unwilling to report what they notice and resentment and get over whatever they're angry about, right? So now I'm witnessing the sensitivity to the tone of voice, that in radical honesty, if you, for example, you said that you were trying to make a point, you will immediately be going to be shut down as a smart ass. Are you trying to be smart? Just admit that you're trying to be smart, you know? In the same way, when I started to speak, so I was like everybody who spoke up, we're tone policed. But also when I wasn't really like, I was talking with Mac, Mac would pick up on the fact that I sound righteous, as if that's a problem. Nobody else around me in the real world would be like, oh, you sound righteous. Like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with your psychology and with your mind that you keep sounding righteous? Only people in radical honesty have this allergy to someone speaking confident, someone knowing their shit, someone speaking in like speaking like Brad, but with no charm.
Max said the same thing to me. He said like, you look so superior, and I was like, what? Like it was my posture because I had like a strong, again like regressing. Like you're meant to be slouching with your like legs open, like.
So, and it's interesting because I wasn't aware of it until someone from the outside of radical honesty who observed me and Mac later asked the question, which I did not ask, but I think it's a valid question. It's like, what is Mac's problem with woman appearing superior or appearing confident?
Yeah.
So because Mac was only talking to me when he was attracted to me and was not talking to me when I was not attracted to him. The same happened with another woman and I did not get that part. Like she asked him, she made that statement and I was like, wait a minute, that happens to me as well. It's like, what's up with you being challenged in your power position by women that you're not attracted to or who are not attracted to you? That suddenly becomes a problem.
Oh, I just had a click moment of from the June 8 day when he got so like he had such a falling out with me because when he like entered the workshop and he was like a gremlin and I was like, oh, you're like a gremlin, but like loads of people were teasing him and I also teased him and he was so mad at me for teasing him. Like he took me outside and shouted at me and I was like, ah, and I cried. And I remember him saying like, why would you do that? And I was like, I'm really sorry. Like, I thought that's just what we do. Like, I've seen you tease co-trainers and like people tease each other. And he was like, don't tease me. Like, I remember being so like, I was like, I honestly felt like I was just doing what I thought like other people were doing. And I'm really sorry. And I really didn't mean to upset you. Like, it was one of those like impact over intention moments. But I was like, but you just saying that reminds me of that because I remember at the moment being like, I feel like this is a totally like a huge overreaction for what has actually happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was I was I was aware about his reaction. He made it known to me because I also was worried and I was like, hey, what's happening? And I realized that he's sensitive to any kind of criticism.
Mm.
I did not realize just how much sensitivity is to the criticism. Again, the narcissistic wound is deep.
It's that normalization of like emotional outbursts in
Mm-hmm.
radical honesty as well. Like it's part of the culture. As we said, there's maturity is a taboo word honor, virtue, like all that kind of stuff that tries to, the things that kind of recognize that humans by nature are not like, this is like also one of those like ideological ones I was thinking about, that humans, I like, if you humans are not good by nature, or they not all are, and they not always will be. There will be opportunities to be like, yeah, for survival or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore you sometimes need to, like, society imposes rules, standards to make people try to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like just not something that happens in radical honesty at all. In fact, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
It's like if you try to be better, you are shamed, you need to regress, you need to
Yeah.
be sloppier, your language needs to be less articulate, your posture needs to be shit, you need to burp and fart, like just, yeah, you're just turning into a toddler basically.
Yeah.
Don't read books, don't like don't compare different thoughts, or, and it is, and the only time they do kind of say, hold two conflicting view at the same time, they're so simplistic, like it's, I love you and you have smelly feet is like the best example that they've got for that.
Can you imagine in 40 years nobody came up with a better example? No, I even haven't come up with any alternative to that. That's the one I always reserve to.
Yeah.
That's how unquestioned the whole thing has been.
And the other thing is, it's not true. Like if you do say to someone that you love an insult, it will cause an effect in your relationship. Like it's like permission to say things that you have an innately very wise reasoning to think this might upset the person that I like because I know them very well. And then I'll go to this workshop and it'll tell me to tell them because it'll make me love them more. It's like you've just insulted the people close to you about their biggest insecurities.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a smelly feet example. So rude. It's so, we're teaching Lily, like, and this is so hard to grapple with parenting, right? Because that's my job. I have to impose stuff to Lily so that she gets an idea of like how the world will react to her. Um, and there, she's very good. Like there are moments where like, um, I try to use. I read this book that was really helpful for parenting, and it uses examples of like the more, like, stories are a really great way to parent because, um, the more tools that you can use so that it's not the parent always enforcing on the child, then that just helps your relationship a lot more. So rather than like me saying like da 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 da, it's usually a monster or a story or a fairy, because monsters are less frightening than a parent who is mad at you. Like a parent who's mad at you is the most upsetting, scary thing in the world, but a scary monster that lives under the fridge and will eat your toes if you tell a lie is like kind of fun and silly. So we have an I want monster and a please fairy. So if it's like, I want milk, we're like, oh, it's the I want monster. And she'll go, oh, please, can I have da da da? And we're like, oh, it's the please fairy. Like, we love the please fairy. It's so polite. Um, and she's very, and you know, she'll ask like why, and we'll go, oh, because the I want monster is rude and people don't respond to you well if you're rude. Like, you know, we have to be polite to each other because it makes people nicer to you, especially in Britain. And then I'll say like, I know, I want da da da, and she'll be like, "You're so rude, mummy." Like she's just, and they're the kind of rules that are lost in radical honesty as well. It just like degrades all of them. Hard, like I laugh because I think of like the fucking hard work to impose these onto children, and you just go to one radical honesty workshop and it can be unraveled in like a weekend.
Yeah. But I think it's that quick because of the emotional dysregulation and trauma bonding that happens.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the re-traumatization that makes it so quick. So it's like it's like if you abuse your child, your child will be vigilant and very complicit immediately
Yeah,
because trauma.
yeah,
So abuse makes it just like the shit I've learned about abuse and how abusers see the world and operate in it.
mm,
It's cringe, but that's the reality. Where there's vulnerability, there's going to be predators. Predators are drawn to vulnerability because the predators, like, why not? Because like I'm hungry, so I'm just going to go around food truck, whatever. The same with children, women, and places that evoke vulnerability. Predators thrive in all those neo-spiritual personal development spaces. And I had so many people come to me from radical honesty workshops and we're like, well, I'm having this thing and I just cannot get over. It's like, well, what happened? And what happened that they were psychologically they have been abused, but like calculated, like strategically, they actually met an actual predator that used the vulnerabilities that they shared in the workshop, then to tease them, to control them, just like, yeah, control, tease, humiliate, shame, guilt trip. And so the work that I've did is to inform them that this behavior is predatory, it's abusive, it's not okay. So your anger is actually reappropriate. That is something that I would never teach that in a workshop, because my co-trainer would make it my problem, or it's like, what's wrong with, like, it's something would become my problem. In my very last workshops, I brought up the whole abuse thing, and my co-trainer was just like, I don't, I don't think abusers have a choice. I don't think abusers. I have abused, my girlfriend's dog when I was so and so, and I didn't feel like I have a choice. I don't think that abusers have a choice. It's like, well, you abused your dog when nobody was watching, so you did have a choice. You chose to abuse when nobody was watching. You were not abusing on the street or with your girlfriend in a room. It's like there was the choice. Your brain might have blocked it, but the choice was there. You calculated your actions and you abuse a dog when nobody could see you. And that was the choice that predators make every time before they abuse someone.
And that just to and the way that they square, there's this phrase that square that circle, the way that they try to justify something that doesn't make sense is like you're saying, the anger is justified for the abuse. And then in radical honesty, forgiveness is the state of enlightenment. So it's like, if you resent, you will get over the anger and you can forgive your abuser. And then we're all happy. Like, it's like we have to, like, it's so ironic that there's this message of, again, status by like being comfortable with discomfort, but they cannot possibly be comfortable with somebody being angry at their abuser. Like, that is the ultimate discomfort, and it's like we have to get over this instantly.
Yeah. The amount of discomfort that everybody felt when I was so angry about being abused financially and psychologically by the actual predator, the Mr. Nice Guy in the organization, I was stunned. Just like how little tolerance there has been for someone being righteously angry about something that is continuously being done to me. So, yeah. Not very, yeah, there's so many.
Well, and again, that was one of those fucking horrible moments when I read that The Case Against Social Revolution book with the she references this horrendous book called The Evolution of Rape. I bought the book. So, and she worked in consent, her oh, brain from all this talking. Her career before becoming a journalist was she taught consent workshops because she worked for rape crisis centers, and they were always just teaching consent, consent, consent. Like, if you consent, then it's okay. And then there was just bits of that she wasn't okay with. She was like, why isn't this working? Like, why doesn't it work to tell the abusers that they have to look for consent, and why aren't they listening to us, kind of thing. And then she found this book that was called The Evolution of Rape, and she just read it cover to cover instantly, because she was like, this is the words. It was kind of a similar moment. These are the words I've been trying to find. And the scientists that wrote it, they got bomb threats. They got, the police had to come and sit outside their door because the people just hated them for pointing out
That
the
is a
truth.
point. Mm-hmm.
So, like, people were just, society was furious at them for saying that and basically what they wrote about, I bought it and I haven't finished it yet, but what they're just scientists, they're just stating data. Like, they don't have any opinion in this, they're just putting together the resources, saying that the hard truth that no one wants to admit is that rape was a mating strategy that worked, and it had evolved and it got selected for. So when someone of didn't have resources to attract a partner, or they weren't charming enough or whatever, they would just take it, and that would create children. So, and then those people, like eventually, traits can become genetic in these sort of situations, like super subtly. Not that like rape is a, what's the word, like a heritable thing, but the small things that we're talking about, like enjoying the power or the physicality, or like just like being a psychopath becomes a successful mating strategy. Like it fucking sucks and we all hate it, but these people exist and it works. And her point in her whole sexual revolution book is that if we continue to pretend that there's no predators, and we can teach predators to just consent, and we tell women there is no danger and that you are the same as men, then like bad things will happen, basically. um what was my point about all this? I lose the point when I go on a ramble.
That was a really good point already. I also could chip into that.
Yeah, you go, I'll come back later.
Yeah. The so the book that I picked up after listening to what's her name, the sexual revolution author, was The Bad Men, The Origin of Sexual Violence, Harassment, and something else. Horrible book. Also, just by researchers studying people, putting data in the book. Really good book. I couldn't finish it. It was too hard. Just getting a lot of information from researchers that I follow online about the studies about pedophiles, rapists. Also, that the fact that statistically, people who cheat, if they have a cheating parent, they're more likely to cheat in their own relationship, and it's also might be linked to genetics, or not only socially learned behavior. Yeah, the fact that 1 in 10 men could be predatory statistically, those researchers, just like the researcher who did a study on meditation, the adverse effects of meditation, they all received death threats.
Yeah.
I was like, there are topics that threaten the predatory people, and their way of dealing with that, with challenging their authority and their power positions, and their narrative is that they just threaten to kill you, and they take action to really threaten you, and that's why they go unchallenged.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so, and I think this is where I got into conflict with, like, this is what really made me fall out with like radical honesty and other human potential movement stuff that really push this narrative of like super liberalistic societies, because that scares me. I don't want to bring up my daughter in a society like that. I don't want to be part of circles like that, because I've been victim to what happens in those kind of communities. And it's like it's this kind of hilarious thing that historically, it's changed now because of all sorts of reasons, but historically, there was this trend where when women became mums, they became conservative because they wanted to vote for like super secure environments,
Yeah,
for their children and themselves, because they're suddenly vulnerable.
yeah,
And that's kind of what happened to me, like being like super progressive leftist upbringing. My mum is completely captured by the human potential movement. I was brought up with that fucking shit all around the house, like totally indoctrinated it, just ripe for the plucking, like perfect for it. And it was only really like not even becoming a mum, but just reading that and being like, oh my god, like human nature is so dangerous. There are psychopaths that have, there's advantage for them to rape, and if you create safe spaces where people are allowed to behave badly, bad things are going to happen to people. I don't want to be part of that anymore. I don't want to encourage it. I don't want to encourage other women to go into spaces like that.
yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I cannot, like, because many people, they come to me, either they're the radical honesty leavers, people who are waking up slowly, or they left, or they have harmed in the past, and they send me messages, or there are people who have been in my workshops before, and they're like wondering what's up, and if not radical honesty, is there anything else that I can recommend, maybe authentic relating or somebody else. And I had a lot of people from other cults coming to me and complaining about their internal culty system. So I'm like, I have no hope that there
Yeah.
is the safety to be found with new age alternative systems, because I don't believe that unqualified, untrained professionals, self-proclaimed yada yada, can actually provide needed safety or can recognize vulnerability in people and know what to do with it. And I have to say that for men, there's less risk than it is for women. So men will experience those spaces as kind of like, this is great. There's like, it's amazing. But for women, it might be like, it's like, oh, this is great. I'm empowered.
Yeah.
Then you find yourself to be raped, or you're complicit because it's like in that container, it is you feel pressure to be open and free and to have sex with everybody, and especially with your leader or leaders or assistants of those leaders, the enlightened ones. It's like you feel like you're having an honor when in fact you're being taken advantage of, because you're the vulnerable person in the space where everybody assumes there's no vulnerability.
Yes. They assume there's equal opportunity for people to take care of themselves, and
Yeah.
that's not what's happening at all.
Yeah. That's not reality. But hey, cults are not based on reality. That's why they get away with a lot of shit. Yeah. And also, when we know the statistics, when we get courageous people, researchers and scientists who study social phenomena and they publish data, and some people, like some scientists are really full of shit, like Jordan Peterson, and like that spectrum of crazy. When courageous people put out data, it's really, there's no, like, it's illogical not to believe victims,
Yeah.
especially if victims are children, women, people with disabilities, marginalized group. It's illogical. Like, like statistically, it's so likely that if you're a member of one of those groups, you will be, something bad is gonna be something bad will be done to you just because you were born in a specific place or with specific context. It's illogical, it's irrational not to believe victims and to say that victims lie. But here's the thing: the narrative prevails of the predators, because predators are really good in intimidation and threats. And I think that's why everybody's like saying with Brad, it's like, I don't know, Brad, how does it work for you that you're so good at doing the psychotherapy? I think Brad is just very intimidating. He's very loving to some people, and he can be very funny to some people and very intimidating to other people. And when you have a combination of loving, charming, and scary, you get, it's like he's very slippery. If you challenge him, he's gonna make a joke and he's gonna go away, and you go like, you just find yourself like giggling, like those trainees and trainers listen to him lie and not answer any questions, and he makes jokes and everybody's laughing. The problem is solved. There's no solution. Nobody provided a solution. We go like, fine. That's how intimidation works.
Yeah. Yummy. I'll tell you that I was gonna do this like 8-week course thing, this like 12-week course that I was making.
Oh, you were in the making of the to teach.
Did I tell you about that?
No, I mean, you mentioned that you were planning, but I don't have any more information.
I haven't done it yet, because I keep postponing it. Just because of this, like this constant battle of like there is a genuine need, and that there is like a loneliness epidemic. People like to meet up and do stuff. Sometimes meeting up at like a yoga brunch or something, there isn't necessarily like a facilitated conversation, and you're seeking connection, and sometimes it's nice to have facilitated something. So like
Mhm.
everything I've done is so surface level, like yeah, just very simple, but I'm still just so like reticent to start it. I mean, so maybe that's my effect when you were sharing your story about like the recovery part. I think
Mm.
there's definitely been a recovery part in that, like the knock of confidence to what is harmful, what is helpful, or like, yeah, just like no what's the word, not self-esteem, like self-esteem and value, that I have anything willing to give, or that anything that's like valuable, because Callum, like my partner gets annoyed at me all the time because we still have a business. I need an income to come into the business, and it's up to me to like create something out of nothing, to because I don't actually have any qualifications, but just to like bundle something together to make money with. And like painting's fine, that makes money, but there is a real genuine gap for so many people in the way that we live in this world. And I don't know, like about how it is with you in Berlin and Lithuania, but in Aberdeen, like especially Gen Z, like I've been looking at the data on the Scottish government, and it is like Gen Zs are so lonely. They're on their phone all the time. They're seeking places to just sit and talk to each other. And it's like, I'm like, I could do that. Surely that is safe. But even that, I'm like, God, who am I to fucking offer that to them? Or like, yeah, so
Mm.
this is ironic that something that was meant to like big you up so much has become so suffocating.
Yeah, and impeding to
Yeah.
actually be out there and just be a grown up who knows what they want to do and do it. Yeah. On the other hand, I am wondering whether the way my relationship with social media, the way I get clients and the reasons why I'm getting clients for my coaching, whether that's even legit to be doing what I'm doing, and whether it makes more sense for me to merge into like governmental organizations working with abused people and help them in some ways. It's like I'm wondering how much of what I'm doing right now is just me continuing the brainwashing and the mentality of the brainwashing. Um,
Yeah, I
because
relate.
it's something that I really like and enjoy, but I'm suspicious about why am I liking this so much, right?
I think it's evil. I think social media is evil. That's my stance on it. Like even though I have my pages, I haven't posted them in so long because like I also can't bring myself to feed the machine, because that's also like cultic and coercive in ways that we've like never seen as humans before. And
Mhm.
there's like, yeah, but I'm fortunate that I do want to come off of it, and I only really want to attract people through them walking through Fitty and having like a poster. Like I am actually working towards not having any social media anymore, because I want to at least reap what I sow, and I think it is really shit and damaging for friendships, for relationships, for families. Especially the data harvesting stuff. Like there was a point when it was nice to be in touch with people. But like yeah, I mean, really, it's ironic because it wasn't radical honesty. It was deleting social media that made me closer with my friendships, love myself more and how I look, and I don't look at my face so much anymore. I don't buy makeup so much anymore. Wanting to let my natural hair grow through a bit more, like all that kind of fuckery. I don't know whether that's just growing older as well, but definitely like removing social media was more transformative for me than joining transformative workshops.
I have to say that social media really saved me in many ways, because
Mm.
it really helped me to regulate when I was so dysregulated after the pandemic. Yeah.
Hello. You okay? A bottle? This bottle? Oh, okay. Bye. Yeah, and you're so right. Like there, yeah, access to information. Yeah, mind numbing out as well.
Yeah. And there are so many great content creators that I still follow that I'm very grateful that they're sharing their story. Did you see the 50 no, I probably didn't see the episodes of Who the Fuck Did I Marry?
No.
That really taught me about predators and how they function. The love bombing. And yeah. Oh, another thing that I've learned by listening to a little bit culty podcast is this woman, I don't remember her name. She's an attachment therapist, and she says that abuse starts with connection.
Yeah.
And only after a while you learn about the manipulation lies. Like, you cannot spot it. An abuser will start the abuse by building connection, by building rapport,
Mm.
by mirroring you, by having a relationship. That it's like I really like what we talked about, that radical honesty content wise doesn't really have any substance, but the substance is substituted by the emotional relationship, by the connection. In that connection, everything can happen, including abuse, and people still stay because they're so longing for that, feeling fulfilled and filled with, I don't know, emotional bond.
Yeah. Maybe that's what I mean by with social media, that I can see why, if there is a generation, and I don't relate to this because I didn't have that upbringing, but I'm seeing it with like my brother and his friends and stuff because they're all much younger. My brothers, they're all like teens. Where like if you've only ever known these thrills through the interconnection with the screen, that when the screen goes away and you do have those, like it almost encourages the like crazy radical honesty shit, because it's like, whoa, this is like sugar when I've never had sugar before, kind of thing. Because it's just when actually like normal everyday interactions can be also just as exciting,
Yeah.
or nourishing.
Yeah. That's why I've been teaching in radical honesty about orgasms, the emotional orgasms.
Mhm.
But that was toxic as fuck.
Is that what you were saying? That orgasms are top?
The type of emotional orgasms were just the things that were created the trauma bond, the dopamine hits, and then the
Right.
off the dopamine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was shit.
Yeah. I did a new lens with it where like and I don't know, so this is an example of like coming up with shite that I just filled in one time and then kept teaching it, and I have no idea if anyone else has ever taught that or discussed it. And it was one where like, so you've got the curve of the sensations and you've got the time, not time, but the line that goes across of like
The
base levels.
intensity and time,
Yeah.
intensity over time.
Yeah. And then you reach a point and it's like, oh, stimulus, I start to get sensation. And then we do like, you either, there is a moment where you either overshoot and you've done too much, or you cut it out and you just carry on. And then apparently cutting it out forever leads to a big emotional outburst. Not been
And
proven.
cancer.
Yeah. Not been proven, just a theory, by the way. And I used to teach it like, so that line that comes across is the trigger, and you either blip or you whoop. I like circled that point and would start to say to people, rather than the bias of like, you should ride the wave because that's good, I said, this is where you have choice. You like look at your environment and is it appropriate to ride the wave? Or do you actually choose the also very wise and evolved response of going, this isn't appropriate right now, I'm going to deal with this later? And like that was the lens that I used that instead. And I remember like teaching, I was explaining this to someone else as a TC, and they were like, what? Like, that's how you've been teaching this? I was like, what have you been teaching it? Like, and again, it was just through that, like, this is bad, this is good. And then this is not our fault.
It's like, what do you mean choice? We don't have a choice. We have to get over our anger.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. There's no workshop if there's a choice. Create a business.
Mm.
Oh.
Uh,
Okay, wow. It's 5:20 here.
yeah,
He comes back from nursery in about half an hour.
stop the recording.